Hey, what's going on, guys? Fizz here once again. So in today's video, I kind of want to talk a little bit about my opinion on the future of influence items in PoE, or at least like the direction I think they ought to take, right? So first off, I kind of want to start with like a little mini review of the current way that the new influences work, right? The new Eldritch implicit influences. So the current orb mechanics. First off, I think dropping currency orbs instead of just dropping an influence item rather, is both a very PoE-esque. It's very much in the spirit of PoE when you like really think about it. Like what really defines like PoE and kind of like separates it from other ARPGs in the genre. The currency system in this game is incredibly unique, right? It is very, very PoE-esque in that sense. Moving on from that, I do think like forcing on new implicits with both a implicit prefix and a implicit suffix is very cool concept, and it is something that has a opportunity cost. And while I do think the opportunity cost currently is out of balance, I would say, which I think is fine ultimately, because you have to farm a currency, you have to slam on a bunch of mods that probably don't benefit your build until you finally get something relevant. And to do that, you are giving up, you're giving up like some resists, or you're giving up something in most cases, like spike gloves. And it kind of like can work in tandem with the current Atlas bases. Like you think, hey, I dropped some spike gloves, I get 20% increased melee damage. I'll use this until I have the currency farmed up to force on the implicits that I want. Like I like that there's a kind of like bridge there. And while some cases you could say like, well, it just makes, some Atlas bases irrelevant and you never use them anymore. Well, that's kind of what Atlas bases did to normal gear, right? Like, how many times would you go on PoE Ninja and not see someone using two-tone boots or fugitive boots? Like, really nothing has changed in that sense. It's just kind of moved to a new thing. It's not like it's less or more diverse than it was before. You could even say it technically is more diverse, because now you can kind of just use whatever base you want, since you can change the implicit to your liking. Moving on from that, I think targeted rerolls in terms of like the Chaos Orbs and the Exalteds and stuff like that, I think that's really cool. They're basically taking some of the very powerful things about Harvest, giving it some niche rules and some niche uses, and re-implementing it back into the game. And I think it's clever. I think it's fun. I think it's engaging. And I think it's a great way to do it without like just expounding power creep like Harvest did. And make no mistake, this is power creep for sure. Like there's no way around it. This is power creep. But this is power creep done in a, I would say, healthy way, and a very fun and interesting way, instead of just saying, here's more. Here's more damage, here's more whatever, and you can just get it for free, right? It's an interesting way to do it, and it makes you have to think a little bit and farm a little bit to get to it. I think it's fair. Overall, I think the system works great. I do wish though that they were slightly easier to farm the currency orbs, just in general, and especially like on alt characters. Like after your first character through the Atlas progression process. First time I've ever dropped a unique jewel from Delve, by the way. Or not Delve, but Abyss. I do wish it were easier to get the orbs, because at least from my play experience, I noticed that I don't drop anything. I finally get in one of my maps, with it spec'd on the Atlas, by the way. I finally get in one of my maps an altar that gives me Eldritch currency, drops at % whatever rate. And it's not a mod that will just straight kill me, like putting LMP on my map or, something like that. I finally get one of those. And then in that map, I'll drop like 10 currency items. And then I'll go another like hour plus without getting like anything. And then I'll get one of those altars that'll pop. Because there's so many, I feel like there's a lot of dead affixes on the altars. Like nobody ever in the history of forever has ever cared about getting extra implicit item bases to drop. Like I'm never clicking that ever. I am never going to click like, yeah, now, it's like, that'd be really good in like a Drox map if I could have a bunch of like Drox influenced items dropping constantly. But for the way this currency works, it is just completely worthless, and that's what most of them end up being. So it's just not beneficial at all. The gym one is okay and has some niche uses. I did farm like it's actually like really easy to get like +1 wands if you're going for like meta mod crafting to like farm your like endgame wand in SSF from doing the vendor recipe with jewels, because like what you can gyms rather, what you can do is just like keep getting all the gym ones, and then you'll drop like tons of gyms every map that have a bunch of quality. And then if you don't know, if you vendor gyms totaling in 40% quality of one type, like 40% quality total of a bunch of cold gyms with a wand, it'll give you a +1 to cold spells one. And then you can just do that and then hit it with augments until you get a good stat, regal it, and then multi-mod it, and you have your endgame wand, right? Like, so there are some niche uses for stuff like that, but the pre-existing like drops with the implicit thing is just completely worthless, and I think that should just be gone. Really, I think it'd be fine if they just increased the frequency with which you get the offer to drop Eldritch currency items from Eldritch minions specifically, not necessarily the map bosses, because that drops all the Exalteds and the Chaos Orbs and all that stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the ones that will reroll implicits, the Ichors and the Embers. And then also getting it on like subsequent playthroughs, like your alt characters or your next build or whatever. Because one of the things they addressed the problem is like, hey, people feel like they can't get influence items until they're like in endgame, so we're gonna make it more available earlier. Well, you don't get access to it until T11, and then when you do get access to it, it raises 1 tier every time once you do your invitations until it's T14 minimum, and you have to do a T16 and then do the boss to drop it back down to T14, because it'll go up by 1. Once you fight Black Star and Infinite Hunger, then basically it'll keep going up 1 tier each time to spawn the influence until it's at T16. And it will stay at T16 until you take the quest invite and fight Exarch and Eater, right? It'll stay that, and then it'll drop back down to T14, which is a little bit wonky, to be honest. So how my like Atlas progression typically goes on these restarts is like, I will just completely ignore doing the invitations on the T11 invitations, fighting the Black Star and the Infinite Hunger, until I am like super T16 ready, and then I'll kill them. Basically, I don't do the halfway point invitation until I'm ready to do the final invitation, because of the way it scales, and that's a little weird to me, that it incentivizes me to do that. That aside, though, I think it's kind of weird on, like I said, subsequent playthroughs, where now you just don't get the influence at all until T14. So the first time you kill Eater and Exarch, you don't get any influence until T14. And that gives you a bunch more mob density in all your maps. That's more XP, that's more drops, blah, 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 blah. But it also gives you access to the altars, which is the implicit currency, the Ichors and the Embers, which are the important thing. They said players felt like they couldn't access until endgame, which if you look at the previous endgame, what did you need to get to in order to access that? Well, it would be 4 Watchstones, which if you put them on the inner regions, or after they changed it to only 4 regions in the most recent patch, before this one, then it's T14 again. So nothing changed there at all. The only exception is that sometimes, every once in a while, you have a chance to drop one of these at random while playing. Same that you would drop a Chaos Orb or something. But they're so rare that you're not going to be able to put that stuff on your gear and have, like the implicits on your gear everywhere like you would want, like they kind of advertise it to be. So that's kind of weird to me. I don't agree with that. There should be more availability of it sooner. And you can kind of see that like the idea and the execution of it is decent, but not great. The idea is really good. The execution is just okay. Because if you look at the ladder, even characters that are level 100 are still using the lesser implicits. They are still using the most common one to get what they want. Why is that? Because there's not enough availability of them in general. I feel starved for lessers. So most people only go for lessers, especially in SSF, right? And like you can kill Exarch, you can kill Eater, and I've killed them in total across the entire league over 20 times. And I could count on one hand the amount of times they've actually dropped in a currency for me, even if I have spec'd into their wheels, which their wheels on the Atlas tree are pretty trash, by the way, especially Exarch. Exarch is garbage. Then again, so is Maven. Actually, most of the endgame boss wheels on the tree actually feel pretty bad to do, especially if you're trying to like farm like influence stuff from them. Anyway, side tangent. But yeah, it just, it doesn't really do a whole lot, and there needs to be a much higher frequency of this currency dropping. And if they want to keep it at T14 before you can get the altars and the crazy influence and get all that mob density and everything, fine. But you need to like give us a way at lower levels and lower tiers to be able to get that currency more consistently on subsequent playthroughs. So moving on, how does this interact and what kind of precedent does this set for the other influences in the game? Well, I'm sure you'll notice after playing this league that in 99 times out of 100, in 99 use cases out of 100, nobody uses any of the other influences anymore. Why is that? Well, because it is such an incredible quality of life, and it reduces the tedium so much of certain crafting to be able to just get a good item and then put your influence on it. This is very, in my opinion, PoE 2-esque. The same way where it's like you get a good, like you get your 6 link and it's on the gym, and then you can swap out the gear as you want. It feels a lot like that. It's reminiscent of that idea where it's like, I get the good gear and then I just put the implicit that I want on it, instead of having to go around to get this one affix that I need off an influence item, and then I have to recraft all the gear around it and try to hit all the mods at the same time. It's a lot less tedious, it's a lot less frustrating, and just objectively better, in my opinion. So where does this leave the rest of the influence in the game? I think they ought to, and there's a chance that they will, move all existing influences to orbs. You can still have items that drop influence the same way you have items that drop influence with Eater and Exarch already. But I think this would be really cool. And it opens up the door to add influences to new base types. Think adding Conquer influences to rings and amulets and stuff like that to get your mana reservation for Pride, to get your vulnerability on hit, things like that. It would be really cool. Flat damage against chilled enemies, you know, all sorts of stuff. Curse on hit rings. Like, there's a lot they can do here. And it isn't technically power creep because you can already get these things. And you're getting it easier, but there is a cost, right? You can still, like, at least in the current game, you can still drop a 2-stone ring, get it influenced, and then you know, roll your curse on hit or whatever. You can get it from Delve too, and you still have the implicits. But if you were to take this system and port it over to new base types with the old influences, then I can put like, I really want a Volt on hit ring. I can put Volt on hit on the implicit of the ring, and while this will free up the suffix that the curse on hit would normally take, it does overwrite the implicit, meaning my 2-stone ring, which was granting me 32% resist total, 16 fire and 16 cold or what have you, is now gone, and I've given that up to now have Volt on hit, right? So there is an opportunity cost there, and I think that's important to make a distinction of. It's not just pure power creep, because you would be giving something up to get something. Now, would you be getting more than you're giving up? In a lot of cases, yeah. But there's room there to even like increase the investment, right? Because I think Conquer orbs and stuff like that should stay in the game. So what happens if they change it to be like this, but they keep Conquer orbs in the game? Well, you throw a Conquer orb on a ring, and now you get to have that Volt on hit, and you're giving up that suffix again, but you get to keep the implicit, things like that. They could even make it drop like that instead. They could make it so these currency items would only ever re-roll the implicit as they do in the current game. But if you pick it up off the ground, then it could appear on the prefixes or the suffixes as it does now. It would effectively not be completely reworking the entire influence system, but just giving us new currencies to interact with. And I think it'd be cool. And the way that you would get it is just the same way you get those influence items now. Run Drox maps. You have a chance to drop Drox influence orbs, stuff like that. Like, you know, it would be really cool, and there would be ways to balance this, right? If you still want to keep your implicit on your 2-stone ring or your Vermilion ring, then you can go get a Drox Conquer orb, or, well, in a case of a Vermilion ring, good luck dropping that, you know, naturally. But you know, in a 2-stone ring, you just run Drox maps until you drop a Drox influence 2-stone ring, and then you can craft it the same way you do now, right? So we can have both, you know, they're not mutually exclusive. We can have both systems, and it would really open up a lot of flexibility in terms of gearing, and I think that that's ultimately a good thing. And I don't know. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. I think it's a really cool idea. I think the game only stands to gain from doing something like this. And like I said, the big point I want to make is it's not mutually exclusive. We can have both. It doesn't always have to overwrite the implicit. Just if we were to get a Drox Eldritch currency that can reroll a, an influence implicit, it'll just do that. And then you can still drop normal Drox items that don't roll over the implicit and whatnot. Like, we can have both. And as far as like double implicits, I think ultimately it would probably stay at 1. I think you could make a case for maybe shields or something to have a double implicit the way all the main pieces of gear do, but I think like for like amulet, rings, belt, all sorts of stuff like that should stay single influence. Otherwise power creep would get really crazy with some of the crap you could do. Like, I mean, that would basically be like free Cirrus orbs on like everything, which would be, that should be nuts. That would be too power creepy. So I think I should say a 1 implicit. But yeah, that's just kind of like my musings on this. I think it's cool. It's something I've thought about a little bit. But what do you guys think? Are you happy with the new Eldritch influences? Do you like the system? Do you not like the system? Do you like my ideas that I've put forth regarding the way influences could potentially like evolve and change in the future? Do you think it wouldn't help build flexibility somehow? Like, what do you guys think? I'm curious to hear your takes. That said, that's gonna be the end of this video. Thanks a bunch if you made it all the way through. If you liked the video, feel free to leave me a thumbs up. It does show support. If you didn't like the video, feel free to leave me a thumbs down. Tell me what you think I can do better. I do read all the comments. And if you like the content that I'm putting out, please sub. It does go a little bit of ways to support me. So appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll see you guys in the next video.